joining us here on the Mercedes-Benz Vans phone line. It's been a while. Dan Orlovsky. How you been, Dan?
Rich, I've been great, buddy. Awesome job at the draft, by the way.
Thank you.
It is good to be back on with you, bud.
It's a big bear of an assignment, no doubt about that. Coming out of the draft, as you know, Dan, half the battle, or a large part of the battle for a rookie quarterback, is to wind up in a good spot where the coach knows what to do, the coaching staff knows what to do, the coaching staff isn't going to get the axe. Same thing with the front office. And which quarterback do you think winds up in the best spot after they got drafted in 2022, Dan?
Yeah, I still think it's Malik Willis. You know, I do think that Kenny Pickett's in a good place for Pittsburgh, and I think that if I'm Pittsburgh, this is an open competition with the built-in of this is Mitchell Trubisky's job unless Kenny Pickett takes it from him. And if that happens, then you feel good about that. If you're Pittsburgh, that we made the right pick. The concern for me is the offensive line in Pittsburgh is still a subpar unit. And if I was going to tell you what Kenny Pickett was good at and what he struggled with, it would be his mechanics in the pocket and leaving clean pockets and, you know, how much he just allows the rush to impact him throughout the game. That's why I say Malik Willis. One, we know John Robinson, the general manager for Tennessee, is not going anywhere with the roster that he has built. Two, Mike Vrabel, the head coach, has absolutely no pressure right now for his job. So he's not going to, what we see in the NFL all the time, and you know this, rush a young quarterback on the field to try and save their job. Their offensive coordinator, Todd Downing, you know, is schematically built and believes in dominant offensive line play, committing to the run game, never allowing the game to dictate who you are, and really allowing the play-action game to be the fundamental part of your passing game. And I think that's what allows Malik Willis to play at his strength. Now, he needs at least a year, if not 2 years, of just learning. You know, this is a guy that's super talented physical player, very bright young man, but I don't believe was actually stressed to develop that football intelligence and really learn protections and really learn run checks and really learn coverage change, because it was, hey, run to the line of scrimmage, you know, let's run RPOs and let's take shots down the field. And I think if Tennessee could just be really smart and patient with him and allow him to really play a little bit of catch up there, he's got the chance to be a really good player.
Yeah, and of course, you know, when he gets on the field, we're assuming Derrick Henry's still going to have some significant years of viability left. I did like that scenario for sure. What about Desmon Ridder in Atlanta? What did you think of that one, Dan?
Well, I think it's a good landing spot, Rich. I do. I believe that if you ask me the two things that he did well, run the line of scrimmage and then play action pass in rhythm. That's what he did at Cincinnati, and that's what Arthur Smith, they're all head coaches, you know, coming from. That's what he believes in. That team is devoid of talent beyond words. Poor offensive line, poor skill group. And Kyle Pitts and Drake London, you know, very young and promising players. Obviously, Kyle Pitts is the superstar, but they don't have really proven wide receiver talent, and I think that hurts a little bit. We'll see if he actually plays beneath Marcus Mariota. Atlanta just comes across to me as a team that is going to go through a difficult year, and then next year go big game hunting, whether it's in the draft, because they're going to be a top 5, top 6 draft pick next year. You know, so I think that they're going to see some of the talent that's coming out of the college rank next year. So while I think it's a good fit for Ridder, unless he gets on the field and then plays above the supporting cast, I think Atlanta's back in the mix next year.
Dan Orlovsky here on the Rich Eisen Show from ESPN. Let's talk second-year quarterbacks and who's going to have the biggest leap. And there's so many different, leaps that we're talking about here. I mean, Trevor Lawrence, year 1 to year 2. Doug Peterson's now there. The guy who kicked his kicker has now been kicked to the curb. That alone should just mean so much for him. Yeah, I said it. Zach Wilson gets Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall, and that goes with Elijah Moore and is supposedly healthy Corey Davis, Michael Carter year too. They got a whole bunch of tight ends drafted and free agency. Becton could come back. Then you got Trey Lance. Anything he does is a leap, right? Then you've got Mac Jones. We saw what he did last year, and you could even throw Davis Mills in there, who had the second best rookie season of a quarterback. Justin Fields, a big question mark. Which one do you think is going to wind up with the biggest leap, Dan Orlovsky? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's Zach Wilson. And, Rich, I don't really think it's close. Huh. I think the quarterback that we saw set up going into their second season to play this well was Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. I think I look at the whole situation as this. Number one, second year in a system that has for 40-plus years had quarterbacks play above their talent level, and that's the Mike Shanahan, Gary Kubiak, Kyle Shanahan system. It is just as quarterback-friendly when it comes to the commitment to the run, the threat of the run, and then the easy play-action pass throws out of it. So that alone is going to force a jump. Mike LaFleur, the offensive coordinator, second year. But their offensive line right now has 3 first-round draft picks on it. You mentioned Becton, but AVT, and then Laken Tomlinson was a first-round pick as well. Huge free agent signing from the 49ers. So this in 2 years, Joe Douglas, their general manager, has given Zach Wilson a good offensive line. I think it's got a chance to be a pretty darn good offensive line, candidly. You mentioned the tight ends. And now they've got 2 first-round selections at wide receiver, a second-round selection at wide receiver, and basically a first-round tailback in Breece Hall because reports were saying that they were going to take him. And that's everything for a quarterback to go play well, dude. Like this, if you are the talent that the second pick in the NFL draft kind of demands you to be or deems you to be, then we're in a good place. And I think Zach Wilson is going to have a giant leap this year. Not only because of that, but also I saw him come back from injury last year. His last 6 games of the year, he looked like a good player. And from everything that you hear and from the people that I kind of talk to that I know in that organization, they have said that he has taken a massive leap when it comes to his ownership of his role within their organization.
Oh, my gosh. I got to tell you, that excites me to no end. And I love Sauce Gardner and what they did in the first round, too. You got Jermaine Johnson the second. I don't understand what I'm seeing with a competent front office actually building a team from the inside out. And
it's new for you. New for you, Jets fans.
It is weird.
I think he's a really good place. And if you contrast it to Justin Fields' situation in Chicago, it's not even close. You know, anyone who expects Justin Fields to take a big leap this year, you're kidding yourself, or he's going to be the MVP of the league.
There's no in between. There's no in between.
Well, they've got a bottom 5, bottom 6 offensive line still. Their two top pass catchers are, a second-round tight end from 2 or 3 years ago and a third-round rookie this year that they took out of Tennessee. Now, Darnell Mooney, is a good player. I don't believe he's proven to be a number 1 or number 2 in the league, so he doesn't have a number 1 or number 2 receiver as far as, guys with, are bona fide in that role. Bottom 5 offensive line, it's a lot to ask of him. I'm concerned about who's calling plays in New England. I've been adamant about that. I don't believe that that's a good situation for Mac this year. So I'm really convinced. I think Zach takes a big jump.
No, what are your concerns about Mac Jones? What are your concerns about him?
Well, 2 things. Number 1, the draft pick of Thornton out of Baylor as wide receiver in the second round. I'm not trying to be a jerk. Name the last player that came out of Baylor that the hype meant that he exceeded the hype or met the hype. Corey Coleman, the receiver, didn't work out. Denzel Mims, as you Jets fans know, hasn't worked out. Kendall Wright for the Tennessee Titans first-round pick didn't work out. There's Baylor receivers that are really good college players, and they get drafted to go be big speed guys. And, Josh Gordon was the supplemental draft pick that actually worked. And I just don't know if I don't believe that Tyquan Thornton is going to be this second-round receiver when after him went Alec Pierce, the receiver out of Cincinnati that went to Indy. Sky Moore went to Kansas City. So both speed guys, but also good receivers. And then if you look at, Rich, the quarterbacks, the young quarterbacks in the NFL over the last 4 or 5 years that have taken these jumps in young parts of their careers, there's been this continuity in their offensive coaching staff. Patrick Mahomes had, Mike Kafka and Eric Bieniemy. Josh Allen had Brian Dable and Ken Dorsey. Joe Burrow's had Zach Taylor and Brian Callahan. Lamar Jackson's had Greg Roman and I believe their quarterback coach is Jeremy Urban. Like, he's had these guys for the same amount of time. Mac Jones goes from Josh McDaniels to a coach that's never called offensive plays in the league. Like, that is an issue.
Dan Orlovsky here on the Rich Eisen Show. You can catch him on NFL Live and the host of television shows on the worldwide leader in sports here on the Rich Eisen Show. So I definitely saw you talk about quarterbacks under the most pressure entering the 2022 season. And I want you to tell me why you chose Dak Prescott as number one atop your list, Dan.
I mean, it's go time. We all know what the narrative is, and it's a fair one and an accurate one. When you pay the quarterback a bunch of money, what happens to the rest of your roster, the stress that it puts on the rest of your roster, and, the ability to build that. I also started thinking of the last quarterbacks that basically within a year of them getting their big contract extension, what they did with it. Patrick went to the Super Bowl. Jared Goff went to the Super Bowl. Josh Allen basically played one of the greatest quarterback games we've ever seen of last year's playoffs. And so now Dak Prescott has been like the last quarterback that got his big money, that we're sitting here as a young player or still youngish player and saying, okay, now it's time to pay it off and prove that was the right investment. We see it didn't work out in Philadelphia with Carson Wentz, and I just think that this roster has been slowly picked off a little bit since that contract. And this is a team that plays in, a non-elite division in a non-elite conference. And I've said this before. I'm not being a jerk. It's the truth. Name me the last time you can remember Dak Prescott carrying the Cowboys or being the reason the Cowboys won a game versus a good opponent.
I guess they didn't win against the Bucs last year in Week 1, but him coming back, I see what you're saying, and I was very disappointed with their playoff performance this past year. Highly,
right.
And being a Cowboy quarterback is always one of the most pressure situation. And I saw the rest of your list as well, Dan. Where 3, 4, 5 are young quarterbacks who I think need to prove their worth now while they're being evaluated now. I think Zach Wilson still has a gig. 4th is Jalen Hurts on your list. I think he is definitely in a do or die year. And you could say Tua. I think that's a perfect number 3 as well, because of the way that Miami has totally remade itself. Your number 2 answer, not to go first take on you, but I got to push back. Why do you think Aaron Rodgers has any pressure at all? I don't think he's under pressure at all. Why do you put him 2 on this list, Dan? Why?
Because it would be absolutely one of the most indescribable or inexplainable things that if Aaron Rodgers leaves Green Bay with just a single Super Bowl, and I am not the person who measures quarterbacks by Super Bowls and, like, they're good or bad, but I know I played against this dude like 15 times, and I know what I watched, and I know the talent that I saw, and it would be very difficult for me to understand how, if he only wins one, that was the case. With the stability that they've had, with the amount of talent that they have had, to not be, and he didn't play good last year in the playoffs. And, that was a team that really had a lot of makings of being a Super Bowl champion. And, the 18 months long of, I don't want to be in Green Bay, or I'm upset about what's going on in Green Bay, and now the relationship's gotten better, I'm going to stay in Green Bay, even though they took a quarterback in the first round 3 years ago. Yeah, I think that this is like, I believe he's under the most pressure he's ever been under, not financially, but just far as climbing the mountain, reaching the ultimate top. I think that this is probably the most pressure he's ever felt when it comes to accomplishing that goal.
I don't know. I just think the guy doesn't feel it. I just don't think he feels it or senses it, and that if he does finish with one Super Bowl, he'll still show up as a first ballot Hall of Famer in that gold jacket the rest of his career, and people will still be talking about him the same way that you did, which is one of the most incredibly talented guys to ever play. And Marino seems to be able to stand tall without any of those rings as he shows up to Canton every year. That's my, I don't know. That would be my pushback on that, and that we could choose another guy to throw in it too overall.
Last year we had the same question, and I said unequivocally it was Matthew Stafford. Did I think that if Matthew Stafford won or did not win the Super Bowl last year, his life as a human at 45 or 50 years old was going to be any different? No. Do I think that same case for Aaron Rodgers? I do. I don't think his life, whether he wins a Super Bowl in the next year or two, as far as a human or a personal thing, at 45 or 50 is going to be any different. I don't think it's going to be any different. But these guys are the cream of the crop, the most competitive, maniacal, driven human beings on planet Earth. And I know, I'm putting words in his mouth, I know that dude wants to win another one. I know it, because there's no way that he accomplishes what he accomplishes if he's not obsessed trying to chase that down and trying to go do it another time. And I can't imagine that he's not expecting, I got to go get it done. He's even hinted at it in press conferences a little bit, hey, we got to find a way to get it done.
Well, because I'm a guy that doesn't just push back and then not make a suggestion. I would remove Rodgers from that list and put Russell Wilson right there. I mean, Denver thinks that they're ready to roll now, and that he's the missing ingredient. That he's a much younger version of Peyton Manning, and by that I mean for a guy that comes with a ring to town to finish up their career on a high note. That's what I mean. Not skill set, and obviously not all time GOAT level. That's where I mean. I'd put Russell there, because everybody's going to be looking at him and saying, it's go time now. Thanks for coming. And we'll see what he looks like.
Yeah. So I actually gave Get Up, I think, 7 or 8 names. Russell was on there. Okay. Tannehill was on there. Sure. I've kind of phrased the Russell Wilson situation as this. I think it's a must-win window, not a must-win season.
Got it.
I absolutely agree that he has to go win a Super Bowl in Denver for not only what they gave up to get him, but how good of a team they are. I mean, this is a relatively – and I don't think he's ever had the situation he's in now, where elite offensive system, which Nathaniel Hackett is bringing over, and elite skill position talent. I mean, he's got a lot of weapons there. So I would agree. I just don't believe it is a must-win season for Russell. I think it's a must-win tenure.
Okay, and then last one for you, Dan Orlovsky. Not to put you in a role of news and information, but I mean, you hear a lot of stuff. Your ear is to the ground, as you also do your job so well at ESPN. Why is Baker Mayfield in the situation he's in right now, do you think, Dan?
Yeah, I think it's probably 2 reasons. Number one, the finances. Teams don't want to take any of that money, and it's weird because Cleveland, you have to pay them. Whether you cut them or not, you have to pay them. And you saw the report last week, no one wants to do Cleveland any favors. So that, and it's a 1-year rental, I guess. You don't know if he comes over and plays good football or pretty good football, are you going to commit the money that the quarterbacks are getting nowadays to him? So, and maybe a little bit of the personality, maybe a little bit of the abrasiveness that you hear some reports about. I've been adamant, Rich. I don't understand how a team didn't send a 5th-round pick and $4 million to Cleveland for him. Yeah. But I just believe he's a good player, and I think that at some point he's going to get on a roster, and I think he's going to make a general manager look very intelligent.
Dan, thank you for the time. Always appreciate it. Never take it for granted. Let's do this again whenever you're around. If you come out to L.A., I'd love to have you in here, too. That would be fun.
I might be out in L.A. sooner than ever anticipated, brother. So I appreciate it. Always good to be with you.
Let me know. Let me know, sir. You be well, Dan.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's Dan Orlovsky, everybody, right here on the Rich Eisen Show out here in Los Angeles, hopefully sooner rather than later. It'd be great to talk to him. Boy, I just love listening to him talk. It's great. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.